Her book, The Black War in Arnhem Land, Missionaries and the Yolngu, 1908 to 1940, is exactly one of those events in our history about which Mickey wanted to promote a more complex and nuanced understanding and show how those events fitted into a national context. In 1932 and 33, there were 8 murders in Arnhem Land, an area that had been gazetted by the Commonwealth as Aboriginal land the year before. 5 of those killed were Japanese trepang fishermen, 1 was a territory policeman, and the other 2, men from Sydney and Tasmania, travelling in a small open boat from Darwin through to Thursday Island. For a time, these killings by the Yolngu in the north of the country captured national attention and provoked much and often inflammatory public discussion. So much so, the newspapers began referring to the events as the Black War. While the killing of Police Constable McColl and the trial of the man accused of his murder, Takia Wirapanda, has over time taken on a legal status of its own, the social and political events that led to those killings were research triggers for Mickey. As she tells us in the preface to the book, Mickey thought her research would be purely in the archives, but as luck would have it, one of the key players in the events at Caledon Bay and Wooder Island was still alive, and Mickey was able to regularly share a cup of tea with former trepang fisherman Fred Gray as he recalled his years in Arnhem Land. In her words, "For an oral historian, it was the ideal position, as I was able to interview, research, check and confirm Mr. Gray's account of events. Where there were conflicting versions, I could go back and present these to Mr. Gray for comment." Fred also introduced Mickey to Connie Bush, who as a young girl lived and worked on a mission on Groot Island. So Connie's recollections of her childhood could be incorporated into the picture Mickey was pulling together of life in Arnhem Land in the 1930s. Mickey's meticulous research explores the reasons for this so-called Black War. We get a vivid insight into the effect of government policy of the day, of missionary presence and its impact on the lives of Aboriginal people, and of the interactions between the Yolngu and the trepang fishermen. The description around the killings, the response of the authorities, the expedition to find the culprits, and the subsequent trial of Takia, the verdict of which was overturned in the High Court and then his subsequent unexplained disappearance, brings these significant events to life. But while these killings took place 90 years ago in a remote part of the country, the ramifications nationally were far-reaching. As Mickey shows, they were a turning point for our country. They triggered the start of a national discussion about Aboriginal people, about their relationship with the land, their laws and beliefs, and their interaction with the legal system. Takia versus the King became a landmark judgment of the High Court, raising many issues about legal ethics regarding instructions by judges, the behaviour of Defence Counsel, and the treatment of Aboriginal people in our courts. Mickey's research and analysis of these events shows this story, this territory story, has an important place in the national historical discourse. And just as a postscript to that story, you might remember, back in 2003, an act of reconciliation took place here in Darwin at the Supreme Court between descendants of Takia's family, there were almost 200 of them, and 38 descendants of Constable McColl. The Chief Justice of the High Court, Murray Gleeson, presided, and the ceremony was one of the most moving events that I think many of us had ever attended.